What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Social City Podcast, Season 2, Episode 12. I'm your host, Omar Foster, at Old School Omar. Here is my lovely, beautiful, strong wife, Abby Foster. At Abby. Say what's up to the people, boo.
Hello, people.
On today's episode, we're going to be chatting about bodybuilding versus CrossFitting.
Hey.
That'll be a fun one. We got our special guest and socialite, Meagan Hayes, in the house.
Meagan.
We're going to get some obsession of the week and close off with some gratitude. But first, got to give a shout out to the sponsor, y'all. Special one. A socialite sponsored episode number 2.
Yeah.
Shout out to Terry Ann.
Terry Ann.
This episode has been made possible by a very special person and socialite. She is an incredible athlete and friend. She has been such a huge source of inspiration for us when it comes to her energy, her outlook on life and fitness. Terry Ann Giandomenico joined us back in about 2019 and lives in Las Vegas part-time as she's bi-coastal. She is a master's athlete and qualified for quarterfinals this year. She's incredibly fit, but her heart is even more impressive than her physique. Her and Don have been a great source of inspiration for us as we look down the road at life a little bit. Thank you so much, Terry Ann, for all the love and the support, man. I mean, you know, I feel like in the beginning of our CrossFit days, you used to look up at these, like, the elite, the people who are super fit, the fire breathers, and now it's like, when I see people who are older, you know, 50 plus, 55 plus, in their 60s, like Terry Ann and Dawn, like making fitness and their health and exercise, nutrition a priority, it's like, that's the goal.
Totally. And she's also a fire breather, like, for the record. Like, she's also a monster, not to, like, mitigate that part of it either, but it's so inspiring to see just her attitude towards fitness is still so positive, and it's such a part of her day-to-day routine. And I got to partner with her on Saturday, and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm slowing you down. I was like, girl, I could not go any faster if I tried right now. Yeah. She's a monster.
Their goals.
Yeah.
Shout out. Thank you guys
Thank you, Terry
so
Ann.
much. Episode 12. We're back at it. Dusted off some of the cobwebs there on the kickoff of season 2 and episode 11. But now we getting back in the rhythm here. Felt good to be back and continuing this journey.
That's right.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the global gym versus the box, the show muscles versus the go muscles, the bikini models versus the muscle mommies. We talking about that bodybuilding life versus CrossFit, y'all. We got someone here special to help us talk about today's topic, and one of our somewhat new socialites, an online fitness influencer and coach, Meagan Hayes.
Meagan!
Say what's up to the people, Meagan.
Welcome.
Let me intro you a little bit more. Megan's 28 years old, born and raised in Monterey, California. Been living in Vegas for almost 2 years now. Started weightlifting when she was 17 in high school. Competed in bodybuilding in 2022.
Yes.
Next bucket list items are the wedding coming up.
Yeah, less than 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
she got some Europe and Bali, Japan next year. Possible move.
Possible move.
We'll Keep it in hush somewhere where
the heat
things
is scaring her
somewhere where
away.
things are bigger. Yeah, it is a little warm on
surface,
here.
you know, living on the surface of the sun has a little intensity to it.
And then she's ran an online fitness business for 5 years, and the current one is called now Adelpha.
Adelpha
Fitness. But before we dive into today's discussion, we're going to play a little game. We're going to break the ice, shake it loose a little bit. Want to hit it with that, boo?
Yeah, so we're going to do a little game called Favorite. So it's just little things that are your favorite. So we'll start out, we're just doing 3 simple questions. Number 1, what has been your favorite CrossFit movement to learn that has been new to the repertoire?
Ooh, okay. Definitely the clean.
Ooh.
Definitely the clean.
I love a clean.
Yeah.
You like the squat clean or the power clean?
Power clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Power cleans are fun.
It always starts there.
Yeah,
sure.
the squat clean is a little scarier.
Yeah.
All of it's a little scary at first, in my opinion. But the clean definitely makes you feel very powerful, like right out the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love a clean. On any clean day, especially, I mean, I coach weightlifting Wednesdays, so I'm like, clean day, my team knows. I'm like, I love a clean, guys.
You do.
I do love a clean. It was my favorite move when I started, and it's probably still my favorite.
Yeah, for sure.
Still my favorite. Okay, next question. What is your favorite place in Vegas to get a cheap meal?
Oh. Zach and I have been exploring a lot of the restaurants out here lately. We've gone to Barry's Steakhouse a couple times.
I've heard such good things.
Pretty close to here. The staff there is wonderful. But then if we're like talking like just like a quick cheap meal, most
like
of
a
the time,
down and dirty quick.
It's not even a meal. Like we just want to get ice cream. And we
Where do you go?
Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Shout out to
Sorry,
Drew.
Not sorry. We're looking to have Drew on in a couple episodes here. Season 2, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that place, like I always tell people, I'm like,
so good.
I normally am a savory cheat kind of person more than a sweets, but Sorry Not Sorry is like the spot always. Nestor just finished 75 hard, and we're waiting for him to get back in town, and we're taking him to Sorry Not Sorry.
Yeah, ice cream is mine too.
So
man.
good.
Yeah, and what's
She
your
nailed it.
favorite? Sorry Not Sorry.
I'm always trying the new ones.
The
I
seasonal.
love to try the new ones, and then anything that's just like a chocolatey base. Like I'm all for it.
That's and Uriah.
Uriah
Our
loves that
kids love
chocolate fudge
chocolate.
brownie.
I'm a lavender, of course. Lavender in my coffee,
course,
lavender in
lavender.
my ice cream.
For
I
sure.
love it, lavender. Sorry Not Sorry. Maybe after this. Next question, last question. Favorite thing about living in Vegas? Even though you might be moving to Austin, what's been your favorite thing that you've discovered about the city?
Yeah, I think that there's always something to do, whether it's on strip or off strip.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think of Vegas as being a lot more of like the clubs and things like that. But Zach's little sister's been in town, and it's very kid friendly too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a lot of very interesting Vegas history to discover.
Yeah.
I think people think of it as a very new city because, like, sure, in the grand scheme of things, it is. But there's a lot of really cool stuff to explore and discover on the strip. And I mean, like the dome coming out, like the sphere.
Yeah.
Just always something new popping up, and you're like right in the center of it. So
And
it's
you're
been
never
really
too
fun.
far away from like anything. I think sometimes that's underrated for Vegas. It's like you could go 3 hours, you can be in Cali, or you can go Utah, Arizona.
Yeah.
Like everything's relatively close. So while
True.
you're like in a desert and a little bit isolated, like there is so much to do around. And you're right. I mean, as a homeschool mom, I have discovered many a great things. And it's like whether it's the Springs or Red Rock or any of that stuff, it's like there's a lot more to the city than like people realize. So I always love like hearing when people have moved here, like what they think. Because when it's hometown, sometimes you get like a little
You were born and raised in Vegas?
in a hotel.
Like, you grew up in the casino?
Wait, was your mom a showgirl?
You're like, well, I mean, we did eat at the buffet a lot.
Your mom does love a buffet. Tia loves a buffet.
They give away all those points on the reward system, so the parents get all the points. Like, I'm taking everybody out.
I'm born and raised in Vegas, and I don't know how to play poker. That's always one of the things that I do. I'm like two truths and a lie. My parents, but that's how you know you're born here. Is like you're immune to all the stuff that attracts people. You're like,
true.
oh, what? I don't know.
True.
I don't know. Perfect.
So that closes out our little warm-up game with little Meagan Hayes there. We got to know a little bit about her. And her
Way
favorite
away to her
place
heart.
be.
Sorry, not sorry.
Not
Noted.
sorry.
Always I
Exactly. He knows what's up. So I'm excited to have today's discussion. I started doing CrossFit in 2010, and there's always been like a little beef between CrossFit and bodybuilders. Just
For sure.
that thing, you know, like bodybuilders are always like,
Who does it
like,
better?
They got them sloppy movements, be flopping around like fish on the pole, and
What
blah,
is
blah,
that?
blah,
What are
with
them
that
pull-ups?
kipping crap, and you know, and then like vice versa. CrossFitters like, yeah, bodybuilders all show no go. They're massive. What can you do with that mass? Like, can't even put your arms behind your back. You can't do as many pull-ups. You can't run. Like, I'm just saying, you know, like it is what it is. And I'm always want to be able to speak from personal experience. And I think that it's huge in life when people are like, well, let me tell you about this.
Oh, yeah.
I've never done it before, but let me fill you in. It's like,
I listened to a podcast.
yeah,
and
you're like, I don't really want to take advice from you. You don't even have personal experience.
Yeah.
In it. So for me in 2015, I was like, man, like this would be fun. Let's try a physique show out. And it always kind of been in the back of my mind. I was like, you know what? Let's pull the trigger on this. So I pulled one. I had maybe 3 months to train for it. We had
While we were opening the gym,
True,
That's
yeah, we were
like
moving into the new
he
gym.
picked like the most stressful time possible. He's like, I'm gonna do a show.
Yeah, that's wild.
That'll be great. While we're like literally like hand painting the gym and like
Yeah.
moving in.
that's when things are best. You know,
He's
what I
like
mean? When
eating
you make
cold tilapia out of his
during the holiday
During the
season as well.
holidays.
So we had a friend that kind of helped me out, kind of guided me through like the steps in the process. She was like,
Shout out to Lex.
Shout out
She
to
was
Lexi,
actually
yeah.
one of the first hybrid athletes
She
I actually
was.
knew before that was even like called a thing.
Yep.
She came from the bodybuilding world, and then she got into CrossFit and still was like helping people compete and smashing.
Yeah, so I had the first 30 days of kind of bulking up. I'm sure you know all that stuff. I had to bulk up a little bit, put on a little bit of size, and then month 2 was kind of like hitting your the build, and then the last month or whatever it is, you're kind of leaning out and cutting, right? So
You got a fast track one.
yeah, it was a fast track one. I mean, I was already ready and stuff.
Oh, okay. I mean, you did have a good base. You have a good base.
I just had to, add some finishing
Some good
touches to the
genetics.
physique. No, anyways, one thing I learned right out the gate was like the discipline that it took for like bodybuilders to eat every 3 hours. Boom, 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 the same thing every day. And it's like, man, CrossFitters work hard, but they lack this side of it, Like they'll work hard to eat hard and play hard, but to like work hard and be on a steady schedule and eating every 3 hours, the same stuff, like not having much leniency between that is something that I learned real quick. Like, wow,
The
this
culture is
requires a
very
lot of
different.
discipline.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like there was the discipline in the gym and the extremity in the gym from like a CrossFit, especially in that, I feel like in that era, like in that 2015 time frame of
Yeah.
like we were working hard and then having beer wads like on Friday.
Totally.
Like you would go hard in the gym, but then it was always like a balance of donuts like right after. And it was part of the culture, right? Where it's like watching O go into that bodybuilding space. Well, we had spent a lot of time in Globo gyms from doing functional training. I was at 24-hour fitness before we had our own space. It was such a different culture because it is a 24/7, you are in it. And I think it's something that a lot of times like doesn't get the credit for that part. Like people have no idea what it takes dietarily to like accomplish the physique.
Yeah, so the first thing I learned was the discipline it takes. Like, man, this requires mad discipline. And then to have to do your morning workout, eat all the things you have to eat, and then still have like 30 minutes at night to go in during that last 30 days and hit your little steady state cardio for whatever time it was. Like, man, this is dedication and discipline, like, to the max. So anyways, did the show, got second place. I still got the trophy at the gym, and I'm proud of that. There are ups and downs, pros and cons. I think like the weight variation for me was kind of nuts because I started off weighing like, I don't know, $175 and then bulked up to like 195 at the heaviest and then cut down to 180. And the day before show, I was back down to 170, and then the next week I plumped up 50. It's like, oh, this is a roller coaster that I don't think your body is, not supposed to be doing often, so anyways, that was my journey with like a little bit of CrossFit and bodybuilding, but I was able to gain respect for bodybuilding in that aspect. Like it's not just about how big you are or how your V taper is. It's like you also have to have a certain presence on stage. You have to be able to exude confidence on stage. And I think like just from our background, I think I was able to like shine a little bit more than the other guys. Although these guys were bigger than me, we go back and we looked at the photos. We're like, dude, look at how they're posing though. They're like, it's like, have you ever done this before? So yeah, those are a couple things that I took away from the bodybuilding and CrossFit hybrid. We're curious to know like your fitness journey and kind of where you started at.
Like, cause he got the exposure like almost like functional fitness into bodybuilding, and then obviously
yours is
back
kind of the other way around.
Yeah, I've had quite the journey with fitness, and I've always loved trying out different things. Just it's always been an interest of mine because just going way back, when I first got into lifting, I basically just failed at softball, if I'm like being completely honest. I was not.
It was a door closed for another door to open.
Exactly. I spent 6 years in softball, but like rec league as a little kid.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for my parents for like really supporting that. But I was terrified of the ball. I got hit in the face twice with a ball while I had braces.
Oh,
so
girl. I played
like,
softball, so I can empathize that.
A lot of trauma. I was a very, very like tiny petite kid. And so playing with a lot of the girls that I was growing up with who were like, they were just like gaining size, getting taller than me.
Size advantage in that sport for sure.
And I just like, I could not hold my ground against them. Like if you're, running and sliding into a bag and you're less than 100 pounds and you've got this girl who just like is ready to take you on, I just couldn't, as I was aging, I couldn't keep up. And I was very aware of that. And then I tried track for a year, had the wrong shoes, had the worst like shin splints ever. I had doctors telling me like, hey, you actually like need to like not run for like a year. Like you need to chill. You messed something up big time. And I'm like, cool. So that like sophomore year kind of took me out of it. And then I was a super involved student, but I just wanted to do something with movement. Like, for some reason I just knew at 16 that I wanted to stay like healthy. I was like, it matters that I'm like doing something. And coming from a small town, there just wasn't much else to do.
Yeah.
And there was a gym. So I started going to the gym, and that actually is what led me to like the Instagram and YouTube world, because that was, 10, 11 years ago. And once you're in that world, I mean, before Instagram had any kind of like video or reel or anything, it was just pictures. I started seeing like a lot of these women popping up who were like in great shape. And I was like, what are they doing? Like, again, 16, 17-year-old girl, very impressionable.
Yeah.
What are these women doing? They look so good. I want to look like that. They look strong. I want to look strong.
Yeah.
Discovered they were weightlifting. And so that just kind of got me started on things. And I didn't know that there was a difference early on between like what you were doing with weightlifting. I just thought you just went into the gym and you just
it's all the same, right?
Picked up the weight and you put it back down. And you did that over and over again.
Same, same.
That's
I think
how-
I did the same Britney Spears arm workout from like a Shape magazine for like 2 years straight. At 24, I like originally when Will had talked about this, like ripped it out, and then I did that same routine because I was like, well, this is an arm workout, and I did an arm workout. Like, check, that's it. Like, I didn't think there was any difference in training that you could manipulate the way your body looked shape wise and all of that. It was like treadmill,
it was just
check,
fun.
Boom.
It was something to do, some way to move your body, and like you felt like you were making progress. It was those endorphins, and you're like, hey, I'm starting to do something.
Yeah.
And later on, I got into, when I was in college, I was still going into the gym lifting weights, but I was in the college world. I was drinking a lot because it was brand new to me. I had access to all of these things. I went to a really big school, so there was always parties. And I just like got into a shape physically that I really wasn't happy with. And so I went into the direction of, okay, like now I'm going to start studying what I need to do in the gym and what I need to start eating to be happier with myself physically again.
Yeah.
And that's where you're introduced to the world of macros. And then you start to actually learn about building muscle and hypertrophy. And hey, it's not just go in and pick it up and put it down, but like do it progressively over time, a little heavier. And so like the science started to click. Both my parents are scientists. So like that part of my brain was like
fully activated.
Like, this makes sense now. Like there's a process. And so that is really kind of what led me into the bodybuilding world, especially as it was really exploding on Instagram.
Yeah.
And after college, I moved to Stockton, California, which I don't recommend ever. Nobody needs to go there.
You from Stockton?
It's an interesting place. But again, not much to do there. And I spent a ton of time at the gym because that was the thing that I had to do.
For sure.
And there was a wonderful coach there. Her name is Brittany, and she just chatted with me one day, and she's like, hey, if you're like interested in like learning, about form, I can teach you. I'd love to work with you. And so like I hired her, and she actually took me a little bit into the powerlifting world because she was teaching me squat, bench, and dead. And that was again like another time of exposure of, like it's not just bodybuilding, it's not just macros, it's not just about like looking a certain way. Like I need to learn how to move weight. And so that was like my first exposure of like, oh wait, like there's different ways to do this. And from that point on, it was like, wow, I have a whole world of things to explore
and learn,
different ways to train. And I got so obsessed with like the science behind it all and my own results that's like what brought me into the coaching world. But like just being exposed to like powerlifting and bodybuilding, I was like, cool, there's other stuff to do. There's mobility, there's this, there's that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I always wanted to try CrossFit. I watched the documentaries. I think it was
it's always the docs.
Yeah, I watched those on either Netflix or something, whatever they popped up on.
Yeah.
And I remember just like binging them, and I was like, oh my gosh, like these.
Like, what was
ladies
your
are so
perception
cool.
before the documentary? Did you have like did you see the fail videos or anything like that, or was it always a curiosity of like this movement looks interesting, or was there a little bit of like we talked about last episode about cold plunging? I was like, I did not want to believe the hype around cold plunging, and now I'm like one of those like cold plungers, and I'm like, oh god,
I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
now.
I'm one of those people.
You're
like,
one of those people now. You're one of those CrossFitters now.
Like it's like a hybrid. Like you're the hybrid. But was there ever that perception ever? Or was there always just curiosity? Because I will say this about Meagan, as from a coaching perspective, I appreciate your love of movement so much. It's evident if you follow her on Instagram. But as a student, I love having you in class because I can see you genuinely obsessing over the movement and getting better. And I think people come in with that attitude, but it's like if you've done it for a long time, it's very easy to fall out of love with the idiosyncrasies that make movement more efficient or whatever. And you are a person that loves standard of movement and learning. But was there a perception of CrossFit before the documentary? Because the documentary makes it look dope. Yeah. I don't care whether you like CrossFit or not. You watch the documentary, you're like, that's fire. I got to try it. But there is something I think that can happen before that.
Yeah.
If not.
So I think I was the inverse. When I was exposed to the documentary, I was like, wow, CrossFit's amazing. I definitely have to try CrossFit. And as soon as I started talking about it, I started getting the inverse feedback of people being like, oh, that's how you hurt yourself, la, la, la. So my first thought was, this looks amazing. These people look so cool. They look so strong. I think like all of the daughter girls. I had them
Icelandic
as my
chicks.
Yeah, like
it's a different
my
breed.
phone background. I was like, that's what I like,
we were talking about
do.
that last night. We were curious to know if like being new to CrossFit, you still had CrossFit crushes, because we had them back in the day.
Absolutely.
The daughters were
Who's
your
your
jam.
Do you have a crush now?
I think I I still follow Sarah Sigmundsdottir. I forget what her name is, but she does a lot of really like funny content. I think her name's Rachel. I don't know her last name.
Rebecca.
Oh, it might be Rebecca. Yeah.
Yeah, the tiny big like Becca.
Yes.
Yeah, I always say her last name wrong.
It's okay.
Anyways,
we know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she's funny though.
She's hilarious.
She's hilarious. And
Absolutely
she's
hilarious.
small. She's a small athlete with a lot of power. Rebecca Fusilleri.
Yes.
Fusilleri?
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah. She's incredible. I keep up with a lot of them. And even though, you know, the ones that kind of got me into the sport initially, a lot of them aren't competing now. I'm still interested, like, what's your life like after that?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Being to me, like a real true professional athlete where you dedicated your life to something like that. That was another thing that I think really drew me in, was this idea of like just being like how far you could get with the dedication. And I think at the time, like where I was in Stockton, and then I moved to LA, and then I moved to San Diego, there was a lot of just like moving parts through all of that. I hadn't really ever settled into one place per se. And when I got to San Diego, that's when like the bodybuilding started, because I was surrounded by a massive bodybuilding community.
Yeah.
And so I dabbled in powerlifting a little bit, and then I moved, and so I wasn't working with that coach anymore, and so like that ship kind of sailed. And once I was in LA, I was just so broke. I had no money at all, so I couldn't invest in anything.
Welcome to LA.
Yeah, I couldn't even pay for my gym membership. I was working as a front desk girl at the gym,
right?
so I could go to the gym. Yeah, so that
there's a way though. I mean, true talk though. It's like if something's important to you, you'll find out a way to do it.
Yep.
And that was it. I just needed to be in a gym, so I didn't have any direction there either. Until I hit San Diego and I got into the bodybuilding world. And yeah, I will absolutely say, as soon as you're in the bodybuilding world, all you hear is just trash talk about anybody who's not doing bodybuilding.
Yeah, for sure.
That's inefficient. That's how you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And I love the like CrossFit, like that's not how you build muscle. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But then if you look at some of the guys, you're like, but look at these guys. You're like, they look amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
like,
in the
you want to
pudding.
tell
That's
me
one
that
thing that
they're
got
not
me
building
into
muscle?
it.
Like,
Yeah.
What? Yeah, especially I loved how the girls looked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's always like kind of a
strong.
controversial point. Like some girls, it'll be the deterrent. They'll say like, "Well, I don't want to look like that," and I always think, "Hey, you clearly have never worked out because you have no idea how hard that is to look like that, and it is not going to happen by accident. You're not going to like accidentally be like, oh, what? Look at this bicep.
I don't want to get too bulky. You're like, don't worry, you won't work hard enough to get that bulky.
And you ain't going to eat enough to get that bulky, most likely either, because you in that training scenario, you really have to have hand in hand to look like that. But that's always the thing. Like, I think for guys, they look at CrossFitters, and most male physique will look at a CrossFit male physique and be like, yeah, I'm not mad at that. I would not mad. But I think in the women's space, it can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
I liked a more petite CrossFit girl when I had first started like emulating in like 2010.
Yeah.
And it was like
Camille LeBlanc.
Yeah, Camille LeBlanc. I loved Camille LeBlanc. I loved Andrea Ager.
Yeah.
I loved Miranda, and they were the first time that I saw someone. I've always been athletically built, but I wasn't an athlete. I played rec softball as well, but I was the opposite of you. I was the girl that you didn't want to slide into because I was like this size in 8th grade, and it was getting into CrossFit for me. It made me feel like my body type was actually attractive because I was already naturally a little broad and tall. I was the kid that could move a couch by myself. Like, it gave purpose to my strength, and so I had girls that looked like me that I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I want to be jacked. Like, I want to look strong. If I'm going to be this height, I'd rather just own it than doing what I did for like 20 years of just trying to make myself smaller and be wafy thin, which was just not going to.
Yeah. And I would say like CrossFit has definitely helped with that image of females. You know what I mean? To like not only look a certain way, but you're like, she also performs like this. And that's why she looks like that. She can deadlift, whatever. Just throwing numbers out there. She can deadlift 355. She can clean and jerk 220. Sorry, 360. My bad. I was just throwing numbers out there. Okay?
I just PR'd that recently.
Okay,
So I'm like,
360.
I want to hold on to
that. Yeah. But then, well, not only can she lift those weights, dude, she can run a sub 6 minute mile, and like she can walk on her hand. She can do stuff on the rings. I can lift and hang with her. But these other things, like I haven't even touched the pull-up bar or a set of rings, you know? And I think that was like one of the engaging things for me, because I'm similar to you. Like, I'd always kind of been hybrid and loved movement. Started off as a personal trainer, and then performance exercise, and then corrective exercise. And I've done all the certifications. I mean, I was animal flow and kettlebell and Under Armour training and You know what I mean? Like all these different variations and modalities of lifting. Because I was like, man, there's so much more out there. If you just stick in one bubble, like how could you? And especially as a coach and a gym owner, it's like I said before, I always wanted to be able to talk from an experience standpoint. You know what I mean? Everyone has probably talked about these things. Let me tell you what my experience was.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think has been the greatest thing that you've learned, like that you didn't expect coming into CrossFit? And then what's one thing that you think people could learn from the bodybuilding world that maybe have never been exposed to that?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question. I'm naturally quite a shy person.
No,
And
I if you're shy in my class, Megan can attest to that. If you come in my class and you try to like just kind of sneak in off to the corner, I will always put a spotlight on you. Be like,
For sure. Yeah, I did the same
good
thing.
to see you.
and I never realized that about myself until actually like recently in my adult years that like someone said that, or like, yeah, you're pretty shy. And I'm like, since when? Because in my head, like I'm having conversations in my head with everybody all the time. I'm listening to what everybody's saying. Like I have never realized that I wasn't, someone who really inserted myself until someone pointed that out. And so the biggest thing for me actually with CrossFit was that like I actually enjoyed training in a group space because bodybuilding, as much as there is a community, is quite solo. I mean, you, especially in prep, you have to be very locked in and pretty selfish about this is my day. I have to eat, I have to execute, I have to get my cardio in, my steps. I have to do all of these things perfectly because the stage is everything. And
it's just a moment. It's like people don't realize the amount of work that bodybuilders put in. I was kind of shocked getting to see
seconds,
literally. I mean, I looked at O and I was like, how expensive that shit is. I mean, for real, like people don't realize the investment that, and it's like if you're in a season where you're going back to back, but then you're literally on stage for like 2 seconds and you put in no one sees all that work that it takes for that moment. You really have to love it.
CrossFit, even though like obviously the only level I've done it at is in the gym with Social City, I realized that like I was like, wow, this is so community based. This is so community based, and that's half the fun of it. And I never felt like I was pressured to like, train harder, lift heavier, like get into the position where like I'm gonna hurt myself, which is what everybody says. Like, oh, if you go into CrossFit, nobody teaches you how to lift things correctly and then you hurt yourself. Like that's the reputation, especially that you're told. And like, I've been hurt as a bodybuilder several times. I haven't been hurt in CrossFit yet. And I've been in there for like, 7 months now, 8 months. Like, and the thorough warm up that we go through, the tutorial, all the cues that you give at the start of it. Like I was very impressed after the first weightlifting Wednesday. That was like, I learned a ton. Like, I don't know if anybody else is experiencing CrossFit not in this setting, like sure, maybe you can have your beliefs, but I experienced it with a better warm up than most bodybuilders give themselves, period, the end. And like much more, pointers, cueing, everything than structure, like truly. And it was a surprise to me. I was like, why does everybody have trash to talk when this was probably the best group fitness experience I had ever had.
Oh, cool. So that's so cool to hear.
Super cool.
It's been cool watching your journey too, because if you guys don't follow Megan, you have to follow her. She's got great content. If you don't know where to start especially in the Globo Gym setting, I love your content for beginners in that. And then also mobility. Shout out. I will share a code for our socialites for mobility. Megan's got a great program that she's giving us a discount on. But I will say it's been so cool as owners of the gym to get to see, we've been in it for so long, and getting to see it through your point of view, through your social, because it's not geared for us. You're sharing it for your followers, but we're getting to go along that journey of what it's been like to come in on day 1, day 2, week 3.
Thank you so much for that, because it's been really cool, like she said, to like see it from like a consumer genre,
point of view,
modality.
essentially.
Like you said, as a bodybuilder coming in, it's like as coaches, like we get a little nervous. Like, oh, dude, this girl is a fitness influencer and she's got this and she's got like a little bit of a following. Like, how's she gonna take
you love
it? Like
movement. So do you like the movement? Do you like the class?
Yeah,
like,
but
you
it's
understand
like
branding.
Like, how is she gonna take to this experience?
Totally.
Like, is it gonna meet her expectations? So like, I remember the first couple of days you dropped in and you were doing a story. It's like, man, let me just tell you guys, I attended my first CrossFit class and it was so much fun. I was super excited. I got super giddy and I was learning. And we're both watching. I was like, wow, babe, like how cool is this?
And it's a reminder too that people still have curiosity of the space and that there's still so much to put out there for people to like to make it feel safe and approachable, because it's like we've been in it for so long, and we also know that our culture of our gym is like you can't walk 5 feet in the gym and not get a hello or someone
high five, handshake,
something,
anything,
right? So it's like we're so accustomed to that sometimes we forget that it is still that scary for people. And so it's been cool to almost go through that journey again, like through your point of view, and then seeing your point of view again coming from the space of bodybuilding. And sometimes we'll do like our Flex Fridays, and I always tease people, I'm like, we don't, that pump is a different kind of stimulus than what we're accustomed to in CrossFit, where it's like, I don't mind 165 like beats per minute heart rate. I'm real comfortable there, but it's like you get me into that like dead pump where I can't move my arms. I'm like, oh my God.
some time under tension training.
Yes, so different.
You're like, I don't like this.
But I love that you program that way as well, Omar, because I think, well, we're a CrossFit gym. We do a lot of hybrid training, and I think it does do a good cross exposure to people. Like, hey, there's always something to fall in love with when it comes to movement. And if you fall in love with movement, that's really the secret for long-term fitness. You're going to go through different seasons of what you may like. But if you find, number one, a community that you enjoy showing up to and being a part of, that is the first part of any journey. Whether it's like fitness, faith, food, like find people with like-minded values that you surround yourself with. And are you having fun? Because if you have fun, as an adult, you tend to show up. Because other things in life aren't fun. We do a lot of stuff in life that isn't fun.
As a gym owner and like a programmer, I think that's been one of my key things. I'm like, man, I just want people to leave and go, that was fun.
Oh yeah.
Like that was kind of fun. I'll be back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't want them to be like, oh, it's like, oh, that was miserable. I mean, people will say that, but I feel like that became the soundbite so often that people talk about how bad a workout was that you're like, well, I don't want to go and join you for that if you're talking about how miserable it was. But if you're like, dude, the class today, it was fun. People are like, I want to be a part of fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Give me some fun.
Give me some fun.
Good community.
Your second part of your question.
Some other world can take from bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I had to think on that a little bit because I have distanced myself from the bodybuilding world a little bit in terms of the competitive side recently. I won't be competing again anytime soon that I know of. I just, life can happen though. You never know when I can
trust.
get,
I mean, this guy's running a marathon, so it's possible.
Right.
Literally.
I will say, like, what really lies in bodybuilding is the physique development side of things. That, like, I think that because I've worked with, over the years now, hundreds of women, and I've worked with them coming to me saying, hey, I just want to feel strong. I just want to feel healthy. And then I've worked with them who like come to me and they're like, I want to look a certain way. Like, I want to lose 30 pounds. I think that what you learn from the bodybuilding world is truly like, it's physique development. It is bodybuilding. And so you'll see women come in and they're so frustrated. They're so stuck. They have been, for years exercising and dieting. And I mean, it's not like we're taught in school how to gain muscle mass and how
and the homeschool of Foster we do.
True that.
Ask our kid.
We prioritize the nutrition. It's like you need to eat the meat first. That's the protein, and you need muscles.
What does it do?
I love that because I mean it's true. Like you don't actually know the science behind it unless you actively seek it out. And there's so much that it can be very hard to sort through what's going to be effective for you and what's not. And so I think that if you're someone who is very frustrated with the fact that you've been expending all this energy, if you're a woman who's like been doing 2 hours of cardio a day, you're stuck on a treadmill, or you've been in these, group classes, like if you're running on a treadmill and go do push-ups. Yeah, exactly. They're not bad inherently. Like I don't think any type of movement is inherently bad.
Yes, I love that. I love that you said that.
And I think that from the bodybuilding world, what you can learn is that if you have a specific physique goal, there is science behind that. There's science in all movement, but there's science behind that and the stimulus. And that's what got me so obsessed with it, even as a coach, is that, wow, I can literally engineer this, what you eat and what you do and the stimulus you provide to your body to help you achieve the physique that you want to get. But the balance that you're always striking also as a coach is that we're not always just in it for the looks. We're not always just in it for the physique.
Such a balance.
So like you want to enjoy what you're doing. You want to feel good, be strong. And that's where I love the fact that like the hybrid movement is exploding right now because you get people who are lifting, they're focusing on some hypertrophy half the week, but then they're also trying to be powerful. They're doing plyometrics and then they're running and they're really thinking about not just looking a certain way, but how am I going to be moving when I'm 70, 80 years old? What are my joints doing? Am I going to be mobile? Like, how's my heart? Because at the end of the day, like you can do all these things, but if you can't, run a mile, then like, hey, you're going to be lacking on some, cardiovascular health. And so I think that hybrid, I love it. I'm obsessed with it. As much as people like to trash a trend, why would we ever trash a trend of movement?
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
And I think it's because it's like it's peeling back the layers of fitness. It's like in general, I think when I first got into fitness, everything felt very like you either do this or this or this or that, and not realizing that like falling in love with the movement and falling in love with the journey of fitness, and knowing that like every season like right now we're in a running season.
Yep.
Maybe we go into a powerlifting season. Like what we train.
We're going to an Ironman season.
Oh, is that what's next?
I mean, hey, that's
my hair
gateway
can't handle
from
the
a
chlorine.
marathon.
I'll stick with the running. I'm going to stick to land sports for now. My hair doesn't do well with that, but it peels back that layer of like while the movement is around being a hybrid, I think it's the idea that like people are actually falling in love with fitness in general, and it's more than just this linear thought of I want to lose weight. Like for women, like we always joke about the 5 more pounds, just 5 more pounds, just 5.
Yeah.
It's like when the goal becomes bigger than that, and it becomes around performance, or it becomes around mobility, or it becomes around a specific race that you're training for, or something like that. It changes your relationship with fitness and health and wellness, and it really then becomes this part of you and this lifestyle, which I think is ultimately what people always want. But they think they make it a checkbox, like a checkbox in their life. Like I knew growing up, even as a young kid, very similar to you, I always looked, my mom was a step aerobics instructor and she was my hero. And I remember getting picked up from elementary school and not understanding why all my guy friends like loved my mom. Now I understand because she was wearing spandex, like athleisure before it was a thing. But it's like, I always admired that she was really active, and I always wanted to be that like fit 40-something mom. But I didn't realize that it was like a whole lifestyle attached to it until I actually fell in love with what we were doing. And it didn't just become I'm going to the gym to run, to lose weight. And that's what that was. It became this thing like, I love fitness and I love movement. And then everything else kind of clicked into place too.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing.
I love that. How would you say like CrossFit has impacted your training?
Oh, not even a new lesson, but a great reminder for me was fueling, because I mean, again, coming from a bodybuilding world, you just track everything that you eat, and you have to pay attention to eating enough. And I've always been the person that I'm so lucky that I never really struggled too much with an eating disorder that was restrictive, where a lot of like, I'd say my cohorts come from in the fitness space. Like a lot of female coaches have a background of that, and they want to help women not experience that. I'm really lucky in that I've always been the eater, and my parents have always been like, eat, come on, you're small. And like as a kid, I was like, okay, like let's just pack it back. And so when I had to go through the dieting phase of prep, I really like, that was my first exposure to a diet. And I also, for like the first time, really realized how much it tanks your energy. And so at the beginning of this year, I was running, I was doing CrossFit, I was still keeping up in the gym, and I just had to keep eating and eating and eating. And it was a reminder of just like how much of a demand powerful movement actually requires from you. Yeah. And just just such a different stimulus. And I loved that. I love to eat. I really love to eat. And I was like, cool. Like,
this is the right stimulus.
To put down more food.
It was fantastic.
Hear that, ladies? You need to eat.
Yeah.
We need to eat.
And that's literally the only reason why these past couple months I've had to pull back and how much I've been doing across the board because of the wedding.
Yeah.
And getting a dress that is like skin tight, tiny. I want to be able, if I'm going to run, if I'm going to be putting my all into CrossFit, I don't want to set a limit on how much I'm eating.
Yeah, for sure.
I gain weight when I run, and I'm fine with that, but I have to fit into this dang dress. So
yeah, for sure.
I have to make that balance of things.
What's the priority?
Yeah, it
dress.
was like, hey,
and
if you're
the season that you're in too. I think it's like, it shows, I think sometimes we get so extreme in what the goal is that we forget that like different seasons require different things. And sometimes it's pulling back because it's not feeding the goal towards that, or it's a time thing, or it's you got a work thing going on, but it's not settling that season is forever, good or bad, because the good seasons pass too. Like sometimes you're in a rhythm and crushing it, and other times it's like, dude, I've been sick, then this happened, then that happened. It's like not getting too caught up in what that is, and realizing that pliability and flexibility in the goals and the journey.
Yeah.
Like that it comes in ebbs and flows. Because after I told her, I was like, I know you have very specific goals right now. I was like, but I'm just telling you, as a coach, I would really like to see you CrossFit like a little bit more, because you move so well and you're so strong. And I'm like a Festivus comes up or something. I was like, I really want to see
a nice
you get
local
to
beginner-friendly comp.
do something like competition wise, because you love movement so much. And I'm like, I just always get so excited when you have people that are coming in. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I feel you.
I was like, I know you got the wedding, we got goals, but after,
Yeah.
I'm gonna find something.
Well, and that's the big thing for me is I realized just like how much more I needed to be fueling myself when I first started. And I mean, that was exciting to me. Like I said, I love to eat and I love the challenge of like, okay, like this is demanding your body. It's so demanding of your body. And I love that. I loved the physical challenge. And so for me, it was like, even though I was going to the 5 a.m. classes, like you got to wake up. You got to eat before you get in there because you want to perform. I think that is just for all women. Like you shouldn't be going into your CrossFit classes in the morning fasted if you can help it. Like if you want to perform, truly you want to perform, you got to eat to perform and execute. And I think it's actually because of how bodybuilding is. I think in the bodybuilding space, it's easier to get away with under fueling because there's not a lot of powerful movement. You're just, you're lifting heavy
different
things.
Stimulus.
It's a very different stimulus. And so I think people can really, women in the bodybuilding space can get away with and often do under fueling like crazy.
Yeah.
But the goal in CrossFit isn't tiny. It's lift the weight, perform, be explosive, be powerful, show up and participate and make it through this 12, 15, 20 minutes of just like grinding.
Yeah, for sure.
And in order to do that, like, girl, you gotta eat. And I loved that. I mean, when I first got in there, I was like, okay, cool. Like, it's time.
It's such a different kind of body positivity. I think like when we were in the 24-hour fitness space and kind of training, because we did a little bit of training like that. Nothing. I never did anything towards a competition, but it was all kind of aesthetics driven. I appreciated understanding that like you are in the driver's seat and that you can do a lot more with your body than maybe like what you think you were genetically gifted with. Like you have a baseline, but there are things that you can do. I always appreciated that. And then getting into CrossFit, it made me really appreciate what my body could do, like the performance side. And for me personally, the performance always anchored the goal longer than the aesthetic. Because the aesthetic for me would be, I want to lose 20 pounds or I want to lose this. I have this event coming up and then I would get to that point and then I would fall off. And then I would go back into the cycle again. And with my history of eating disorders, that was not a good thing for me because I worked in nightlife, not as a waitress, but on the marketing side of things. And so I was always around cocktail waitresses. And so it fed into that tiny mentality, which that was just not in the cards for your girl.
Vicious cycle.
Which I would not have had my man if it was. So it's fine. But CrossFit was really beneficial for me because it made me look at my body from a performance aspect. And then the aesthetics came that I wanted, but it was always about like, I want to get stronger. I want to get faster. Oh, I can't do 5 pull-ups. I want to do 10. I want to do 20. Yeah. We're at 14 years in and there's still like a laundry list of things I could be better at. So it's like that part's addicting, but I appreciated being in a Globo gym, understanding that it's like, okay, like if I want a bigger juicy booty and I'm not getting it by my general performance training, like I can absolutely gear my training towards that and my fueling towards that. It's just more specific. Like it's not, fitness is not just a linear thing.
Yeah, for sure. So before we start wrapping up, how did you find out about us in Social City?
Oh, I think I was just sitting on my laptop and I typed in CrossFit Vegas. And then there was a couple options that popped up and I looked at the Google photos that you guys had. I was like, oh, this is colorful. This looks fun.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. And you guys had an Instagram. And that I think to me was like, because I'm just so in the Instagram space.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is cool. Like these people, I knew that if I brought in my phone and filmed myself for my story and for my page, because that is my living is my Instagram. Yeah. I knew just in looking at your page, I was like, oh, they do this too. Like they won't judge me. Yeah. And that was actually a fear coming into any CrossFit space.
Oh, for sure. I didn't even think about that.
Are they going to be okay if I film myself? Because I'm like a petite bodybuilder girl. Yeah. Like, am I going to walk in as like that bikini girl, that influencer chick who's like here to film herself? I like, obviously I've gotten that in the space before. Gotcha. Yeah. So I saw your guys' Instagram and I was like, this looks like a fun place. Like cool. They're online too. Like they'll get it. I don't think anybody will be uncomfortable if I like want to, film part of my workout.
Yeah, I love that.
And then I think
Nestor and I like always try to make an appearance and Megan's like, I mean, Nestor unintentionally, Nestor's always in the back like jamming and dancing. And then like if Megan's phone's out and I'm passing it, I might like
he was in my first class and I gotta say like he really sold me on it because my first class wasn't even like a CrossFit class. It was a Thursday.
Oh yeah.
And it was
interval
just
training.
like, yeah, it was a circuit. And he worked out right next to me and he was just like dapping me up the whole time, cheering me on. I was like, this place is nice. This place is really fun. This guy's really cool. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. Like, I'm sold out. I'll be coming back.
Shout out to Nestor.
Yeah.
We can have Nestor and maybe Marion on the
Yeah,
on the
he's going
podcast.
to definitely come on.
That's
Nestor's
cool. I
our
love
guy.
to hear that. It's like a completely different angle, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. Let's move on to our obsession of the week.
Ooh, obsession of the week.
Guest, hit us with it first. What
Ooh,
you got?
Megan's
Obsession of the
first.
week.
Obsession of the week.
Okay, I'm going to give you two. First one from like the girly side of things. I'm obsessed with these like little glue on lashes.
I've been following your lashes.
Yes. Oh, and I like
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know, and especially in like the training and the workout space where like, you know, we're getting in there, we're getting sweaty, but
Yeah.
like we also like I do my makeup before I go to the gym.
Girl, you see me at
That's
5
what I
a.m.
do,
I'm the coach
You're
at 5 a.m. I
done?
always
Yeah.
have my makeup, and I think people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, yo, I'm ready for the day.
Yeah.
I'm putting on a show for y'all.
This is the
Like,
only
hope
place
you
I
ready.
go. This is the only place I go.
That
And so I'm gonna look
sprouts.
cute.
I love
Yeah. These little glue on lashes, and the number two, my fiance is very, very into Naruto and anime, and so right now, like the wind down of the day is like he's already watched it all, so now I have to watch it all. So we sit down at the end of the day and we watch Naruto, and it's like it's great. It's so fun. It feels very much like watching Saturday morning cartoons as a kid.
how
So
fun.
like inner child, just like, and getting to do that with my partner. So very much into Naruto right now.
I love that.
I
I
love
love
that.
watching your guys' story because I do love how you guys feed off each other. Like I don't know Zach, but I feel like I do just from your your banter and the way you guys tease each other. It reminds
Yeah.
me very much of like you and I are so
Yeah.
opposite, but like that opposites attract and like the things that rub off on each other.
Yeah.
I was like, my stepbrothers are very into anime, so I feel like they would know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I feel very old.
Foreign
and-
language.
But we're like,
What?
what? Tamagotchi?
Hit it with it, but what you got?
My obsession of the weeks is going to be beans and brews.
Hey, shout out to Beans and Brews.
Beans and brews. I'm finishing Omar's coffee.
Yeah, you are.
I bought it for him. I
You'll
drank
buy me
it.
another one when it's over.
I love them. They just opened up. I think they're a chain out of Utah or something, or Florida. Or my sister would know. Google.
Yeah.
I mentioned Gabby. She's Google.
Phone a friend.
But they're up. They just opened up on Blue Diamond and Rainbow, and they have a drive-through.
You
And
love
if
a drive-thru.
I love a drive-through. If you got kids, you know, I mean, because then it's like you can also get away with getting less things, you know, if they see things in the Peachtree thing. But they also have lavender, which hit my 2 requirements.
Yep.
Check.
High requirement for
Drive-through.
private coffee. Lavender.
Lavender in the coffee.
If they don't have lavender, we ain't going.
Ugh, I know. I'm not going to spend the money because I make great coffee at home.
All right, I'll give a shout out to the Great Greek.
Oh,
Yeah, obsession
yes.
of the week. I mean, we go there once a week, once every
Once a
other
week?
Once every other week or so.
Yeah,
It's in the rotation.
I wish it was
of
once
the
a week.
places they are. Okay, maybe not that much, but at least they have like clean food. Like you can go there and get some steak skewers, you get a
That
nice
Greek food
clean
is good
salad with
food.
some olive oil. You know what I mean?
It's 'cause you
It's
got that Greek
shout
mama.
out. Pretty consistent. Although we don't order out anymore because we're like, why? Like the food there when you sit and eat it is so
Yeah.
good. And what surprised me is like the past couple times we've gone, we've been like probably the only people sitting in the restaurant to eat, and like the amount of like
To
Uber
go.
and like food
Oh,
drivers
yeah?
that come in and grab. Like, man, like this is what food has come. Like you don't even like come to the restaurant to sit down and eat and break bread. It's like just get it, go, grab it, eat it, be on your way. You know?
I do
It's
love the Greek Greek
experience.
though.
Yeah.
I'm Greek, and so like some of those flavors are very reminiscent of like growing up and like comfort food for me. So,
Yeah.
and when we first met, I don't feel like you were really a Greek fan.
I wasn't,
and I was
yeah,
like,
'cause
ooh.
I-
I was like, wait, let me get this straight. You don't. He didn't drink Red Bull when I was working at Red Bull at the time. He didn't drink Jameson, and that was like part of my major food group. And then he didn't like Greek food, and I was
Nothing,
like, "Ugh."
nothing she liked.
He's
I
super
like.
hot though, so
Yeah, and now we just find that compromise.
yeah,
Number one,
I brought all the
everything mixed in together now.
all the bad habits. You've made me better.
All right, let's
Leveled me up.
wrap up and close out with some gratitude. What you got, Megan? What you grateful for?
You know, I'm grateful. I gotta say, I'm grateful for you guys asking me to be on this
Yeah.
and just like getting
Oh.
to chat and
Yeah.
interact with like really the only people I've met new in Vegas that I
Yeah.
hadn't known when I got here. So very grateful for that.
Love that.
And just big shout out to my mom, my dad, my fiance, my expanding family in the next 2 months. They
Yeah.
have
Wedding's
been
coming up.
just working their little tushies off. My mom is basically planning the whole thing on her own. She's amazing.
That's so cool.
And my fiance is just, he's my fiance. I'm marrying him for a reason. And
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful he's been with me through all of it and the spirals and the freakouts and the panics. And like, well, we're getting married, so it's still working.
It's just the beginning.
Get you and have you that ride or die.
Man, it's the best. Marrying your best friend is the best decision.
Truly,
it's like I know some people are very independent. And I appreciate that, but I'm like, dude, like that's my guy. That's who I want on a Friday night. If he can't come, I'm probably not coming. Just letting you know. Sorry about it.
What you got, boo?
I am super grateful for all of our new members. We've had a nice influx of members in the last 6 months, and change is always hard when you lose people anytime, and it's just the ebbs and flows of a business. Like people move or whatnot, but we've had like a very nice, consistent, steady flow of new members over the last 6 months, and every single one of you guys have just added such like new life into the gym in the best way, and like added like a new dimension, and it's been like such a good influx of energy. Like the energy was good, but it just is like that extra octane lately, and I'm just super grateful.
It's like magnetic, when we get like people in who are like vibing on a certain frequency. It's like other people are either like seeing your post or your post or through whatever
and it's like a
outlet it is.
Effect.
Like I want to be a part of that because whatever they've got going on, it seems to be a good thing.
So I'm grateful. God's provision has been so good lately. I mean, he has really brought in some really good energy in the gym, and it's like I loved coaching before, but I'm like extra. I mean, if you've been in my class, I have like some step aerobics energy up in there, but it's like I'm fired up because it's like the people make it easy to show up. So
for sure,
really grateful for that.
Speaking of fitness and all the things that we do, like every day I'm grateful for a body that is capable. You know what I mean? I don't take that for granted, to be able to get up, to be able to walk out to your car on your own, because as we all know, I had my terrible accident, but to be told like I wouldn't be able to walk unassisted again, it still lingers in my mind because of what I'm currently doing. And I'm like, man, like I was told I'd never be able to walk unassisted again, and now like look at this. I'm
gonna run a
grateful for this body. Like now I'm into running. Let's go run a marathon. Like let's just challenge the mind and the body. So every morning, every day, grateful for that.
You're like my Goggins. Omar's been like running in Summerlin and getting honked at. I think it's because people think he's Goggins.
For sure.
Very possible.
Well, that wraps up episode 12. Woo-hoo! Tell them the good news, boo.
Just know that you're made with a purpose, on purpose, and I'm thankful you guys spent your hour with us.
Thank you so much, Meagan Hayes, for joining us. Check her out on the Instagram at Meg Hayes.
At Meg Hayes. MEAGHAYES.
That's right.
Fit Force, woo on 3. 1, 2, 3. Fit Force, woo. Peace out.
Bye.